Hi, this is Dr. Cairns. Welcome to week 2 of Organization Behavior. Thank you for introducing yourselves to each other and reacquainting yourselves with the friends of the past and new friends, hopefully, as this class takes place. I know there are some returning students that I've had in previous classes, so it's good to have you back. And I look forward to meeting those of you that are new to me as we move forward. So thank you for that. This is our roadmap, where we're going, how we're going to get there, and so it's something that I will refer to week after week. You can see the various assignments that are associated with our learning outcomes. So these are things that I really want you to have as takeaways, and we're using these assignments to reinforce the material, but also an opportunity for you to apply the course material now. The overall arching umbrella for me is that I want you to have a positive life-changing experience as a result of something in this class. I want God to amaze you either in your personal life, professional life, spiritual life, or all the above, whatever you have need of. And to that end, I will daily make mention of you in my prayers. And if you want to join me in praying for your colleagues daily throughout this semester, I encourage you to do that. And I expect God to do some great things. So we had a chance to engage in a brief discussion of is understanding human behavior the single most important aspect to managing people, to being successful. And everyone would agree that it's certainly an aspect. Some may be not so sure whether it is the single most important, and we'll check back in with you at the end to see if in fact your perception of this has changed. But I want to talk just briefly, give you an idea of what we're going to be examining in this class and why understanding human behavior is going to be really a lifelong journey for all of us. After this course, you're going to continue to apply and to practice and learn. So this is something that is a starting point, or it's a continuation of where you've been. So let's just kind of look at our brain. We've heard that right brain, left brain thing, but let's look at the other aspects of our brain. The first part is our frontal lobe, and our frontal lobe serves to help us problem solve, make decisions. It's where our emotions are found. It's also where our thoughtful, purposeful behaviors come from. So this is where we think and therefore we act. And sometimes our emotions would cause us to act as well. And then they're occipital. And occipital are really the things that we see visually, the information that we process as a result of us looking and observing. So that's another aspect. And then there's the parietal lobe. And the parietal lobe is where our sensory comes from, our sense of touch, feel, where we feel pain, where we can that's the area of touch, and where love is expressed in other aspects as well. And then we come to our temporal lobe, which is where sounds and language, where we interpret those things that we would hear. And then we have our cerebellum that actually controls our movements, and then our brainstem that is connected to our spinal cord. And so with that, you can see the complexity of the human brain and a lot of different stimuli that comes in that actually contributes to our behaviors and how we move. So you could see how there'll be a whole variety of different things that can influence human behavior, and it's important to understand those in a very thoughtful way. So we'll get some more exposure as we go through the course materials. So I also want to help us stimulate our thinking. And what I want to do is to break down where we sometimes tend to compartmentalize our lives, where our faith life is separate from our professional life and or our personal life. And so we want to have all those things fully integrated. So to that end, I'd like you to critically reflect on how the reading will relate to the things you're studying in organization behavior. So one of the questions that you'll be responding to on a weekly basis is, how does the reading relate to organization behavior, and how does it help you serve God in the workplace? And it's significant from the standpoint that there's a changing U.S. religious landscape. Christians are on the decline as a share of the population and in terms of just number. And then Americans with no religious affiliation is on the rise. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I'm not as concerned about that as that doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't people of faith. They're just not identifying with traditions or faith traditions, because in some ways there's a little bit of a lack of, say, looking for a perfect faith tradition. And so how does this affect the workplace is really the most important aspect to consider. So these changing demographics as it relates to spirituality or faith in the workplace. So you can see where millennials on this particular slide are tend to be more unaffiliated than, say, a baby boomer such as myself. And so how does this really come to play out? So I'd like to look at it from the standpoint of Timothy Keller's work, Every Good Endeavor, where he identified 8 different ways that a believer, a follower of Christ, could actually serve God in the workplace. And these are interesting to see, because they are derived actually from various faith traditions. He doesn't necessarily identify which faith traditions. However, these are items that I found for myself, for example, how I viewed serving God in the workplace, even though my faith tradition didn't necessarily preach that to me. In fact, my faith tradition would have said I needed to evangelize, I needed to witness to others in the workplace to try to win them over to Christ. That's how I thought I needed to serve God in the workplace. However, listed here, the aspect is really living out a Christ-like life, and serving God is a variety of different ways, and those are certainly some outcomes and things that we should consider, but it's not necessarily the emphasis. So the best way to serve God at work, he has 8 listed there. And what I have selected from the book of James is really saying that our faith should not be separate from how we actually behave. Our theology, again, affects our behavior. So I have a survey, a poll in Sakai that I'd like each of you to go in and take. And those of you who have been in my courses before know that you've done this, but I'd like you to do it again if you would, because that way we'll see what the makeup of the class is. Because it's important to know that there are various things that influence how we interpret and how we actually behave. So the things that you're going to be studying in this class, you're going to filter through how you best believe serving God in the workplace. So it's important for us to understand that, because it may influence our behaviors, and it may make us more effective or less effective. We just need to be aware of how that plays out. So that poll's in Sakai, and it's important to know that there's no one best way to serve God. One size doesn't fit all. This week you're going to be exposed to one of my favorite films, Rango, voiced by Johnny Depp, who's an actor that I really enjoy. And these are the discussion questions. You only need to select 5, and also include the bottom one where there's a memorable quote. I'd like you to use that and then explain the significance of that, in addition to discussing at least 5 of the other questions posed here out of the 12 that are there. So your choice to self-select and engage in the forum discussion as appropriate. So this week you're also going to be reading and are reading about chapters 3 and chapters 1 through 5 actually. And what I'd like you to be thinking about is the Big 5 personality framework as it relates to us growing spiritually and living a life of integrity and meaning, because this is how we're wired. And we're fearfully and wonderfully made. This is not where God is trying to change your personality. However, let's face it, there are some things about each one of us that could use some modification. So it's important for us to really understand how we're wired, and know that that's how God created us, and there can be some strengths to it, and there can be some developmental needs. So Socrates says, know thyself. And so it's important for us to start with an understanding of ourselves and the impact of our behavior on others. And then one of my favorite theories is job characteristics theory, and we can use this to help us find a career we're passionate about. And the core job dimensions are something that you can match up to your current job description or to subsequent jobs that you may be interested in. It could also help shape how you prepare your resume, interview questions, a variety of things. So I like this particular one. I have a lecture on career development that expands on this. But I'd like you to also take a look at the motivation potential score, because this influences really how you feel about going about your job, and really whether or not you're in a job you love. So if you would, calculate out that formula that's listed there, for you, and have a little fun and see. And then also, it's not one of that, if you find that you don't score really all that high and you're not all that excited about where you are, this also again can help you shape any kind of changes that you might want to make. So in closing, again, I daily make mention of you in my prayers. Also this week, Rango Part 1 as our discussion as we begin the little series of Rango. And then remember to take the quiz covering chapters 1 through 5. Please take the poll related to serving God in the workplace. And then coming up next week is you turn in your proposal for the Applied Organization Diagnostic paper that you'll be doing and study. It's actually an internal consulting that you could use on your current job. These are great ways for students to learn about other organizations, offer some free consulting. So that proposal will be due next week. And then the week after, your classic theory paper, one that you will choose a theory you'd like to do some research on, hopefully something you're interested in. And then week 5, you'll present to the class in forum discussion your paper. And then Strength Finders will be week 6, and we'll have some other headlines as we continue to move forward. So this is the virtual classroom and Never Sleep. So if you have any questions concerning anything, please let me know. I look forward to engaging with you during this semester. The forum discussions are your discussions. I don't engage there, but I will engage with you, giving you feedback, hopefully encouragement, and facilitating learning. So thank you, and have a great time. God bless you.